All right, y'all. 5 tips for people who are interested in starting out as independent teachers. Not just independent online teachers, but independent teachers, IRL and online. And for everyone on Joffrey the Giant, this is not your usual content, but I'm going to post it here anyway. What kind of brand management is that? One of the things I really want to talk about is the personal aspect. That's the theme that's going to bind everything together. And as we move through the tips, the last thing we'll talk about is really diving into personalizing yourself as an independent teacher and what that means. And so, hopefully, if you're a regular Joffrey the Giant viewer, you will be pleased to learn more about me and about the career I've had going on in the background as I produced all these other videos. For 15 years more, I've taught as an independent teacher. And actually, most of my classes have not been online, and yet I've been independent, and yet I've worked mostly with adults. And you'll find as you look online, if you arrived here searching online, that most of the resources available are for ESL teachers, English as a second language, and that has been my primary role. I am an ESL teacher, but I've also taught Spanish and Portuguese. I've taught world history, U.S. history, literature. And so, you just kind of, I guess this sort of reveals what the independent teacher life is like. But this is not my history or my biography. What we're going to talk about now is these 5 tips. But actually, not now. First, I want to mention that this video is sponsored by Kepler Education. My new role, my new position. Not only am I going to continue to teach, but I am also going to be the counselor, the student counselor for Kepler Education, which is an online education platform. This video is sponsored by.
This video is brought to you by Kepler Education, empowering parents by liberating teachers.
Let's get into it without further ado. Tip number 1, sell yourself. And I want you to put the emphasis on that second word. Less emphasis on sell, more on yourself. Don't get lost in the myriad of products you might be able to offer. Beginning course of this, intermediate course of that, specialization in this, 8 weeks focusing on such and such a thing. All those can be good things, but particularly when you're beginning, you want to focus on who you are and why people will want to engage with you. And there's a promise not only of personalization there's a promise of reliability, of being able to go to you. And as an independent teacher, that's something that you have to assume, right? You are taking on, in exchange for all this independence and all this freedom, you are taking on the roles that an institution might have taken on for you. And so you are the one that's selling now. The same way a school might sell themselves, and within the school you might take certain courses. Well, you need to sell yourself. You are now the institution, except beautifully and wonderfully for the client, you're a person. So sell yourself. Tip number 2, be personal, limit yourself. Now, I've put this negatively so that it is a little jarring, so it makes you think a little more. What I really mean by limit yourself is tailor. Be personal, tailor. And so thinking about it from the negative side and limiting yourself, you might be tempted as an excellent teacher to build up this huge repertoire of courses, to trot out all your expertises and all the different things you might be able to offer. You could choose from this panoply, this cornucopia. Wow, I should really control my multisyllabic blurtings. Okay, but really, you get the idea. You don't want to. You have this smorgasbord within yourself. Limit that. Again, this is the theme we're building up here. You are selling yourself. So much more interesting to the client is the idea that you will tailor, that you know what they specifically need you're going to find out for them what they want. And you can message that. You can convey the idea, not that, the whole reason they're coming to you instead of an institution is that they felt lost. You are the guide, and that's what you need to convey. You don't need to show them the whole world that's available to them. You need to show them the guide. And that leads right into the next tip, which is be the responsive expert. And every word there is carefully selected. The responsive expert, not just an expert. You are the responsive expert. And what do I mean by responsive expert? What I mean is you want to convey before you're getting clients, but you want to follow through when you have clients, that you will be responsive to what they think they want. But you will have the confidence to tell them what they need. All right? And so the key here is thinking in terms of relationship, not programs, not courses, but relationships. I've had some students for multiple years. I had a student for 5 years. I've had several students for 3 and 2 years. And why do they stick around? It's actually not necessarily because of the progress that they're making. It's because we have developed a relationship in which they trust me to respond to what they're into, what they want to do, where they want to go, but to also tell them what they need to do, whether it's to tailor their desires and go in that direction, or to tell them, nope, you are not ready for this, or this is not as important as you think. And so you don't want to be trotting out some like, this is where I fit you. I fit you into this box, and we're going to do these things, even if you're right. You also don't want to be led along by the student, right? There's a reason you are the teacher, but you should definitely be responsive. And that's going to lead to longevity with your clients. If your client, basically what we're talking about here is gratification, reward, fun, right? If you're going to be teaching English, let's say, I did say this wasn't for ESL teachers, but hey, you're teaching English, the student is progressing along, but you've been sort of going through a certain routine. If you don't anticipate it yourself and the student expresses a desire for some variety, well, hop to it. Find what that needs to look like by listening to the student and then using your knowledge, your expertise to shape that. And you'll find that your students will stick with you through thick and thin. They'll find ways to adjust their schedules. They'll make it happen because they see that this will be a rewarding experience for them and that they will be learning far into the future. And sometimes that might mean like you really want to work on something, but maybe you need to take a step back from that for the sake of the relationship. And be open, be honest about that. Both parties understand that it's business, but it's a business relationship. And given that this is a relationship, we have number 4 now, be personal. Yet again, be personal, make a difference. And what I mean by that is, go the extra mile in making the stuff relevant to your students, but also in helping them. Whatever it is you're teaching is bigger than the subject itself. And that's the beauty of having these relationships, right? So yeah, don't be afraid to get involved in the personal lives of your students and to let the students be involved in your personal life. And I don't mean by that, hey, come over and meet my wife, right? Or whoever it is you are, your spouse, whatever. I'm not saying that you need to let them into your deepest, most intimate corners. What I'm saying is that with any long-term client relationship like this, so much of my experience is one-on-one, right? And so I found that English lessons were as much lessons in American culture as they were English lessons. And that was very valuable for students. So, going to coffee shops, going to restaurants, meeting in such places, finding family activities to do. And don't be afraid to bill, right? Bill for these things. Be clear up front that you're going to bill for these things. But that can actually make your client feel very special. I've had clients who have been very temporary come in, an agency calls me because they're visiting from out of the country, right? Rich people who just want some company accompanied by English lessons, right? And so you can actually give that feeling to your student, even if your student is not wealthy, by offering these personal things. Yes, you know what? I'll go to the fair with you. I'll go to the museum with you. But, of course, I'm going to bill you. But so, make yourself available, I guess, is the point of this, in a very personal, very relevant way. And of course, you'll discover what the right balance is if you're representing an institution or representing yourself. This is all for you to exercise your wisdom in, but I have found that it's an excellent, the theme here, we're talking about being personal in all of these tips. So I think you'll find that customer loyalty is really built up by personalizing and making yourself available, making what you teach and yourself as a teacher bigger than the course, bigger than the lessons. Finally, and perhaps most generically, but really this is the umbrella to put all these other tips under, build your tribe. If you've heard that phrase, you might have heard it in terms of social media, right? Of course, that's what it is. But understand that social media and real life are the same thing. And you are your brand. So you want to build up a following. People who are into you for who you are. If you search for Build Your Tribe online, well, first of all, you'll find a couple of pretty sweet games. But you'll find all these posts, lists and listicles aplenty, like this one, telling you all these different tips for building this personal loyalty and people who are into you. And this is how the world is beginning to operate more and more, because you have this huge spread of possibility, and it's more than I think we can process. So people latch on to individuals, and you'll find that social media is moving more that way, right? It got super big for people my age, and now with all that size, people are tailoring, people are fine-tuning, and you want to take advantage of that. So actually one of the little sub-tips I would have here is focus on just one or two social media platforms. Don't spread yourself all over, because this is just you, right? There's not some big institution that's doing all the marketing work and then giving you assignments. You might end up partnering with somebody like that. But you want to make all your work sustainable for yourself. So focus on a couple of platforms and make yourself somebody to some people on that platform. Provide content that's valuable for them, but don't just think in terms of practicality. The content that's valuable to them is getting to know you and liking you. I think you'll be surprised at how much business that generates. I mean, there are a lot of very useful things you can do, including Craigslist and classifieds. But really, having an online identity around which a tribe builds up is a very important aspect of this. And it doesn't matter what your personality is, what your tech savviness is. In fact, I would say avoid flashiness. Just put yourself out there, and you'll find that you get returns. So I'm looking at my computer screen right now at some of these posts about building a tribe. And here are some of the mind-blowing tips you'll find. Be as personal as you can be. If you want to reach other humans, act like one. Stay relevant to your audience. Right? I mean, these are things that are so vague, and I hope I'm not being vague, so vague that they're vague because it's general. Really, it's about your willingness. It's about your willingness to put yourself out there. learn from who you admire, speak from the heart, pick your platform thoughtfully, be consistent, value the attention of your audience, be generous. These are the tips. So they're no mystery. It's about you being willing to put yourself out there and build your tribe. And this doesn't mean that you have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. This doesn't mean that you have 10,000 followers on your Facebook page. Just the platforms I'm choosing already revealed my age, right? But whatever your platform is, LinkedIn is actually a platform that I've never really taken advantage of, but I've spoken to many people who have, and to great effect. So think about your audience and then make yourself available to them in such a way that actually builds up a presence. And it doesn't need to be big. It needs to be loyal and generous. And the only reason it will be loyal, the only way it will be loyal and generous is if you are loyal and generous in presenting content. And as you grow, you can do things like present an ebook or a course for free or for very little money, and some way that continues to build up the audience, have giveaways, that sort of thing. But you don't need to worry about that right now. All you need to worry about is picking a couple of platforms and building up. And don't be afraid to ask friends and family to help you with that. I think especially if you find, again, I'm reverting to an ESL teacher, but if you find yourself abroad, it's a golden opportunity to really build a great presence. Okay, so that's it. We started with sell yourself, and we ended with build your tribe. See, all these tips are about you and you presenting yourself and making yourself available. Remember that what you're selling is not a curriculum, it's not a program in which you are more competent than others. You're selling a relationship with you, the independent teacher. That is what is most valuable to your prospective students. Thanks for watching. Please leave in the comments if you have experience as an independent teacher. I'd love to hear some of your stories, some of the things you've learned, and what you think about all this. And hey, if you decide to stick around for other Joffrey the Giant content, that's just super. Thanks so much. The peace of Christ.